Greetings everybody, and welcome back to another Warhammer Wednesday lore video. Today I'm going to be covering the Loyalist Primarchs and all of their legions, not going super in depth, just kind of very surface level, jokey kind of thing, just to get you all familiar with it in case you know nothing about it, or maybe you can laugh along if you do know something about any of the people that I'm talking about right now. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you disliked it, please let me know in the comment section down below. And if there's any of these people or any other faction or person that you'd like to see me cover in a future video, then please go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. So, first person we're going to start off with right away is probably the one that everyone has seen. Reboot Guilliman is the Primarch of the poster children of the 40K franchise, okay? The blueberries, you see them everywhere. The Ultramarines, right? That is the legion name of Reboot Guilliman. I mean, these guys are in everything from artwork, video games, books, you name it. If they're going to put some kind of Space Marine on the cover of something, you've got a pretty decent chance that it's going to be the Ultramarines. Robot Girlyman is known for his logistics and making OCD as easy as 1, 2, 3. He was placed in stasis because of a fight with Fulgrim, but now is back on the scene, and he's trying to reorganize the Imperium the only way a person with a weaponized use of an Excel spreadsheet can. And he's also trying to hook up with Space Knife Ears, aka the Eldar, which is a big no-no for some people, but we'll talk about the other person who has a problem with it later. Next up is Vulcan, and he is the Primarch of the goodest boys of all of the Space Marines. Now, there is plenty of lore and stories about all of the Space Marines doing something or another that is beneficial to the Imperium or just the regular humans and being nice to them, but the Salamanders kind of take the cake on that one. Like I said, the Salamanders are the most well-known for being protecting and placing the regular everyday lot of human society over themselves any day of the week. They are also known for setting entire continents on fire with flamers and heavy flamers. In fact, I'm pretty sure that most of these Salamanders are mostly, if not completely, immune to fire. They fully live to risk their lives for anyone as long as you are human, and pray to the God Emperor. This is where the kind of dichotomy of Warhammer 40K comes into. It's like, as long as you believe in my same religion and you still look like me, we can be friends. Outside of that, they'll just burn you to a crisp. Like, they will kill a Xenos child just as quickly as they will save a human child in any scenario. So most of them, their skin is completely coal black, just like their Primarch Vulcan is. And they're just the goodest boys who are the best when they are spreading out propane and propane accessories. If you don't get that joke, you're far too young to be on this channel. Next up, we have Sanguinius, also known as Dad's new favorite. He's kind of everyone's favorite if you look at any of the artwork. He's probably the most human looking, even in armor, than all of the other Marines. But he kind of looks like Alucard from Castlevania mixed with every blonde-haired male lead in every type of romance novel you could ever see, right? He is the leader of the Blood Angel Legion of Loyalist Space Marines. These guys are vampires. They currently suffer from the Red Thirst and the Black Rage. However, the Red Thirst is the most interesting because if they don't drink enough blood, they will start hallucinating that every person around them is Horus, as in the Primarch Horus of the Horus Heresy. Sanguinius was extremely psychically powerful, to the point that most people came to him for, foresight, battle strategy, and things like that, especially during the Siege of Terra. He was able to actually predict when and where he was going to die, but he still took the L, and he still died. After dying, though, his legion basically turned into real sad boy cry hours. This is an edgy Space Marine Legion, but not quite as edgy as some of the other ones, especially one that we're going to be covering later in this video. But they're more like, they're not like edgy kid that, cuts himself to Hawthorne Heights type edgy. More like sad, kicked dog with a lot of pent-up emotions that you just wouldn't understand type of, damaged soul energy, if you will. The next one up One of my personal favorites, just because of how ridiculous they are, is Leman Russ and his Space Wolves. These are a perfect example that in the world of 40k, that heresy is perfectly fine as long as it can benefit the Imperium of Man. Because if you guessed that Leman Russ and the Space Wolves were giant Viking werewolves in space, then you'd be correct, okay? These guys are known for charging headfirst into battle and just blitzkrieg tactics all the way. They solve problems like 2+2 with a head-on collision and a chain axe. Again, a lot of stereotypes here. So much so that these Space Marine Legion literally built an alcohol that can get Space Marines drunk. Space Marines are immune to most, if not all, poisons, just because Papa Nurgle's still in the picture. And it can still get them hammered. Now, granted, if a human drinks it, they pretty much combust, but yeah, they did that thing. Leman Russ also has a tank named after him. One of the coolest tanks, I think, in Warhammer 40k as far as the Imperium of Man goes, but yeah, that's just a fact you know now. Next up, we have Lionel Johnson. He is the leader of the Dark Angels Legion, and that's not nearly as edgy as you think it sounds. He is more of a barbarian fighter background if I had to give him like a D&D class, not like the edgy rogue. During the stasis pods when they, or not stasis pods, but the pods that they were being gestated in, the gestation pods, that's the word I was looking for. When the gestation pods scattered all across the galaxy, he landed on a planet with a forest ocean, basically, as they would call it, called Caliban. And in Caliban, it was right next to an active opening in the warp, so all of the animals and creatures on Caliban were giant and twisted and very ferocious and wanted to nom humans. But Lionel Johnson didn't just poof into a very populated area. In fact, he had to spend about 10 to 20 years in the wilderness fighting for his life against these creatures pretty much day and night. He actually pretty much ended up becoming a cryptid on Caliban and in the area that he lived, kind of like your Mothman, except way more deadly, and I'm assuming having a better ass. Once he was found, though, he very obviously quickly became the leader of this section of the planet that he was on, and then he brought the planet together to do his own personal crusade against all these warp monsters, because he knew that if the warp monsters got to stick around, the human race would be extinct on that planet. So he just kind of went at it. Eventually, though, he did get hurt by Fulgrim. Shocker there. Most of these people are going to be taken out by Fulgrim. Don't worry, though. People in Warhammer 40k who are at least named characters don't have a tendency to stay dead for very long. But after he left stasis, which he currently in the lore right now is out of stasis, he was kind of pretty pissed about how about Robot Girly Man was running the Imperium, and also how much Xenos pussy he was getting. So there's kind of a bit of conflict there between them. Next up, we have Jagata Khan. I mispronounced that terribly. Part of my research was to look up his name, and I just now realized I never did it. However, he is the Primarch of the White Scars. Like the evil sons like to go fast, these boys also like to go fast, and their Primarch is no exception. They have badass armored motorcycles that they kind of just chill on and either side-strap the gat or they come at you and cut your head off with a power sword or a chain sword. It's actually pretty cool. It also looks pretty cool because they've got their nice little top knots blowing in the breeze, and it looks very majestic until, of course, you know, you die. These guys are kind of like Mongolian warriors. In fact, they're pretty much all based off Mongolian warriors. If instead of giant horses and bows and arrows and things like that, you've got high-tech vehicles, near impenetrable armor, and bolt weapons that explode on impact and will turn any human being into red mist. They're super badass. They specialize in quick strikes, strafing runs, and things like that. Basically getting in, causing as much destruction as humanly possible, or Space Marine possible, and getting the hell out of there. Next one is Furus Manus, and for those of you not familiar with Latin or High Gothic, it means iron hands. He's got metal hands, but we'll get into that. And he's also the Primarch of the Iron Hands. Shocker there. He's also been known as the Gorgon, or Furry Man Ass, by his friends or by dipshits on the internet talking about him. While he was on his home planet of Medusa, which also had a Necron tomb world on it, or was a Necron tomb world, he ended up going into this glacial part of the planet and fist fighting a gigantic Titan Necron, basically, because nothing says "come at me" like a 7'5" human being with nothing but spunk in his two hands. Obviously, Ferrus Manus did manage to kill the thing. However, it coated his entire arms with necrodermis, which is just Necron living metal. If you look at some of the lore and some of the quotes from Ferrus Manus, it looks like it's kind of like trying to take over his brain, but it doesn't seem to be spreading anywhere, which is dope, because with those metal hands, he is able to literally sculpt metal as if it's clay. So he's able to make weapons, armor, and anything of the like to create a war effort with ease that a blacksmith it would take months and months and months. He can just do it like that pottery scene from Ghost, but without the necrophilia. And if you're going to tell me that's not necrophilia, the chick's trying to bang a ghost, okay? I don't make the rules, I just call it like I see it, alright? Next up, we do have the edgelord of the Loyalist Space Marine Primarchs, and that's Corris Korak. Comes with pale skin, black eyes, and black hair that can for sure do the hair flippy thing. Even some of his nicknames just scream edgelord, which I'll read some to you now. The Raven Lord, the Deliverer, Chooser of the Slain, Shadow Lord. I mean, it sounds like names of, like, that emo band that you had in high school, or, like, the names of its members, even though you know that they go home to a loving family and don't have any real problems. All that aside, though, Corvus specializes in stealth tactics and moving in quickly, completely unseen, completely unheard, doing a bunch of damage, and then disappearing before you can even see where they went. Corris Korak, for the sake of being an 8-foot tall monstrosity in heavy 1,000 pounds power armor, actually has the ability to pretty much turn off the sound of his footfalls and anything else that he does, so he can actually move at will, completely silently. His favorite weapon is Wolverine claws, except if they were attached to, again, an 8-foot man and charged with lightning. And that seems to be the theme of a lot of his Space Marines within his Legion. Currently, he's lost on the warp. He did kind of a self-exile thing because he tried to steal the gene seed from Terra, was semi-successful in stealing it, but was not successful in trying to rebuild his Legion, which was devastated during the Horus Heresy and during the Siege of Terra, to basically where all of the Space Marines that he built were completely abominations, mutated, and basically looked like half human, half raven conglomerates, and he had to put them down, so he decided to take a little walk in the warp to clear his mind for a little bit. Last one, but certainly not least, is Ragnar Dorn of the Imperial Fists. A lot of fists in Warhammer 40K. The irony is not lost on me. He originally tellied to the Inuit planet, which is basically a giant ice ball with deadly predators both on the ice and under the ice. He was basically the teacher's pet to Big Daddy E while Big Daddy E was still alive. In fact, Ragnar Dorn was the one who had to grab the Emperor's body and heard the Emperor tell him how he wanted the Imperium to run. He's not doing a great job of it. His biggest thing is like siege warfare and, you know, encamping in a spot and making sure that you can't take this position no matter what, which is why he was so integral in the Siege of Terra, setting up formations of conscripts, setting up gun batteries, making sure the shields are working, all that good stuff, even though it kind of was in vain. So he allegedly died, again, allegedly died trying to get revenge on the Chaos Space Marines that were leaving as the Siege of Terra was wrapping up and they had to retreat. But again, people like this don't tend to stay dead for very long. While he was a little boy, though, he was taught things by his adopted grandfather, like tactics and strategy and diplomacy, of all things, which really isn't anybody in the Imperium's forte. I don't care who you are, even a Primarch. It's not generally what they're known for. He did eventually find out that his adopted grandfather wasn't his actual grandfather, yet he still loved him. To leave you off with a nice, cheery note, and to show you, even though that this is the grim, dark, far future where people die by the trillions, here's a little fun fact about Ragnar Dorn that is nice and lighthearted, and an image I want to put in your head because now it's burned in my brain as well. From his adopted grandfather, Ragnar Dorn kept a fur-lined robe, and to this day, Ragnar Dorn still sleeps with it. So I want you to just imagine an 8-fucking-foot tall, probably 800-pound human cuddled up with his grandpappy's robe like it was a teddy bear. And with that image in your head, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Leave down in the comment section below if there's anything else you'd like me to do, whether Warhammer 40K related or just gaming related in general. And then also subscribe to see when I upload. I try and go for 3 uploads a week, but for sure it will always be a Warhammer Wednesday. Check out the Twitch for some streams, and I will catch y'all in the next episode. While he was on his home planet of Gorgon, cut that part out, of Medusa,